The chess pieces are moving in Los Angeles, and what I'm about to reveal is going to fundamentally change how you view this Lakers season. Rob Pelinka has his eyes locked on a target that could transform this team from playoff contender to legitimate championship threat, and the price tag might surprise you. Welcome to Lakers News Fan Report, your trusted home for breaking news, exclusive updates, and the kind of deep dive analysis that keeps you ahead of the curve on everything Los Angeles Lakers. I'm bringing you insider information today that's going to spark serious debate across Lakers Nation. And I guarantee by the end of this video, you'll be looking at our roster construction in a completely different light. There's a specific type of energy that fills the air when a franchise decides it's time to make a bold move. That electricity you feel when management stops being conservative and starts thinking championship or bust. That moment when the front office looks at the calendar, sees the February 5th trade deadline approaching, and realizes the window is right now, not next year or the year after. We're in that moment right now with the Lakers, and the decisions made over the next few weeks will define whether we're genuine title contenders or just another good team that falls short when it matters most. Let me paint the picture of where we currently stand, because context is everything in situations like this. The Lakers made the blockbuster move last season that shocked the entire basketball world when they acquired Luka. That trade announcement sent shockwaves through the league and instantly elevated our championship expectation. Luka is generational talent, the kind of player you build franchises around, the kind of superstar who can carry you deep into the playoffs when everything is on the line. But here's the reality that every championship team eventually faces. One superstar isn't enough anymore in today's NBA. Look around the league at the teams that are genuinely terrifying come playoff time. They don't just have one elite player. They have multiple all-star caliber talents who can take over games. They have depth at every position. They have versatile wings who can defend multiple positions and space the floor offensively. They have the kind of roster construction that creates matchup nightmares for opponents regardless of who they're facing. That's the standard we're chasing. And that's the vision Rob Pelinka is working toward as we approach this crucial trade deadline. Our current roster has pieces that work. There's no denying that. We've got veterans who understand what it takes to win. We've got young players who are developing and contributing. We've got a coaching staff that knows how to maximize talent. But if you've been watching closely, and I know Lakers Nation always watches closely, you've noticed that there are specific areas where an upgrade would take us from good to great. There are positions where adding the right player would unlock entirely new dimensions of our offensive and defensive schemes. The forward position has been a focal point of discussion all season long. We need versatility at that spot, someone who can guard multiple positions on defense while also being a legitimate three-point threat on offense. We need someone who fits the modern NBA, a mold of a two-way wing player who makes winning plays even when they're not scoring. We need youth and athleticism combined with enough experience to perform in high-pressure playoff situations. Finding that perfect combination isn't easy. But when you identify a player who checks all those boxes, you have to be willing to make the tough decisions necessary to acquire them. Rui Hachimura has been a solid contributor for the Lakers since we acquired him. He's shown flashes of being exactly what we need, and there have been games where his scoring and rebounding made a real difference. He's 26 years old. He's got size at 6'8", and he's capable of having those 15 to 18-point nights that help take pressure off our primary scorers. But here's the question that management has to ask themselves. Is solid good enough when you're trying to win a championship? Is capable sufficient when you're competing against the absolute best teams in the league? Or do you need to find someone who can give you more consistency, more versatility, and more impact on both ends of the floor? The NBA trade market is fascinating because it's constantly evolving based on which teams are contending and which teams are rebuilding. Right now, as we speak, there are franchises around the league who are looking at their records, looking at their playoff odds, and making the difficult decision to pivot toward the future rather than continuing to chase a playoff spot that might not materialize. When teams make that decision, when they accept that this season isn't their year and start thinking about draft picks and young assets, that's when opportunities open up for teams like the Lakers who are in win-now mode. The New Orleans Pelicans are currently sitting at the bottom of the Western Conference standing. They're headed toward the lottery, and barring some miraculous turnaround, their season is effectively over in terms of meaningful playoff contention. When you're in that position as a franchise, when you've got talented players on your roster, but the wins aren't coming, you have to start asking yourself some tough questions. Do you hold on to everyone and hope things turn around next year? Or do you be proactive, move some pieces while they still have strong value, and accelerate your rebuild by acquiring draft capital and young assets? New Orleans has a player on their roster who fits exactly what the Lakers need. A young wing who's shown he can be a legitimate two-way force when healthy. A player who's locked into a team-friendly contract that runs through 2029, which means whoever acquires him gets cost-controlled production for years. A shooter who can space the floor and knock down threes at a high percentage. A defender who has the length and athleticism to guard multiple positions. The kind of player who would fit seamlessly next to Luka and give the Lakers that second legitimate scoring threat they desperately need. Trey Murphy III is the name that's been circulating in trade discussions, and he represents exactly the type of upgrade that could transform the Lakers from contender to favorite. Murphy is 24 years old, right in that perfect age range where he's got playoff experience but still has his best years ahead of him. He's 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan, giving him the physical tools to be elite defensively. And most importantly, he's a 40% three-point shooter over his career, which means he's a legitimate floor spacer who forces defenses to account for him every possession. Imagine what our offense looks like with Murphy on the floor alongside Luka. Defenses can't help off Murphy because he'll punish them from three. That means more space for Luka to operate, more driving lanes, more opportunities for our superstar to do what he does best. On the defensive end, Murphy gives us the versatility to switch across multiple positions, which is critical in today's NBA where offenses are constantly trying to create mismatches through screening action. He's the kind of player who raises your ceiling as a team because he impacts winning in multiple ways beyond just scoring. Now, here's where this gets really interesting and where Rob Pelinka's creativity comes into play. Most Lakers fans probably assume that Murphy is out of our price range, that New Orleans would demand more than we could reasonably offer without gutting our entire roster. But that's where the three-team trade scenario becomes fascinating. And it's where moving Rui Hachimura becomes not just possible, but potentially the perfect solution to make the money and assets. The Chicago Bulls are actively searching for a forward who can play alongside their young star Matas Buzelis. They're currently positioned where they could finish in the top 6 in the Eastern Conference and make the playoffs with the right upgrade. They've got cap flexibility, and they're looking for players who fit their timeline and their system. Hachimura, at 26 years old with proven scoring ability and playoff experience, is exactly the type of player Chicago should be interested in acquiring. Here's how a three-team trade could work that benefits everyone involved. The Lakers send Hachimura to Chicago along with their remaining tradable first-round pick and multiple pick swaps. The Bulls, who get the starting forward they need to push for the playoffs, send draft assets to New Orleans. The Pelicans, who are rebuilding and want to accumulate picks, send Trey Murphy III to Los Angeles. In this scenario, the Lakers also acquire backup big man Carlo Markovic from New Orleans, giving us additional front court depth that we desperately need. The financial mathematics of this trade require the Lakers to include some expiring contracts to make the salaries match under the collective bargaining agreement rules. That means we'd likely have to part with a couple of veteran minimum players who haven't been major rotation pieces anyway. The core of what we're giving up is Hachimura, one first-round pick, and some pick swaps. The core of what we're getting back is a younger, more versatile, better shooting wing who's locked into a cheap contract for the next 4 years, plus a backup center who can provide minutes when needed. From a pure basketball perspective, this trade makes tremendous sense for the Lakers. We're upgrading at a position of need. We're getting younger and more athletic. We're adding elite three-point shooting. And we're acquiring a player whose contract situation gives us flexibility for years to come. Murphy's deal running through 2029 means we can build around Luka and Murphy as our core pieces without worrying about cap constraints that will prevent us from adding additional talent. For the Pelicans, this trade allows them to fully commit to their rebuild. They're clearly not competing this season, and holding on to Murphy while they lose games doesn't benefit anyone. By moving him now for draft capital, they can accelerate their timeline for getting back to contention. They can use those picks to either draft young talent or package them in future trades for stars who become available. It's the smart long-term play for a franchise that needs to think beyond this lost season. For the Bulls, acquiring Hachimura gives them the veteran forward presence they need to make a playoff push. He's proven he can score in bunches. He's got championship experience from his time with the Lakers, and he fits their age timeline better than some of the other options available on the trade market. Chicago gets to be competitive now while still maintaining their young core, which is exactly what their front office wants. The precedent for Rob Pelinka making bold deadline moves is well established. He shocked everyone last season with the Luka trade, proving he's willing to be aggressive when he identifies a transformative talent. He understands that when you have a championship window, you can't be passive. You can't sit back and hope your current roster is good enough. You have to be proactive. You have to identify upgrades. And you have to be willing to part with assets to acquire the players who can put you over the top. This is exactly that type of situation. We have one tradable first-round pick remaining, and we have pick swaps we can offer. We're not afraid to go all in because we have Luka Doncic locked in as our franchise cornerstone. The time to maximize his prime is right now, not 3 years from now when he's older and we've wasted years of his peak. Landing Trey Murphy III gives Luka the wing co-star he needs, someone who complements his skill set perfectly and makes life easier for everyone else on the roster. Think about what our starting lineup looks like after this trade. We've got Luka running the offense as our primary ball handler and shot creator. We've got Murphy as our versatile wing who can shoot, defend, and make plays off the ball. We've got our center position anchored by our current starter, with Matkovic providing quality backup minutes. We've got our remaining starters and key rotation players who all benefit from the improved spacing and defensive versatility that Murphy provides. That's a lineup that can compete with anyone in the league, that can match up against the Warriors, the Nuggets, the Celtics, whoever we face in a playoff series. The defensive potential of this roster after acquiring Murphy is particularly exciting. We'd have the length and athleticism to switch across multiple positions, which is essential in today's NBA, where offenses are predicated on creating mismatches through screening action. We'd have multiple players who can guard the opposing team's best perimeter scorer, giving our coaching staff flexibility in how they deploy our personnel. We'd have the versatility to play different defensive schemes depending on our opponent, switching everything against some teams while playing more traditional drop coverage against others. Offensively, the floor spacing that Murphy provides cannot be overstated. When you have a 40% three-point shooter on the floor, defenses have to account for him every single possession. That means they can't load up on Luka the way they currently do. That means driving lanes open up. That means our offense becomes exponentially more difficult to guard because we have multiple legitimate threats that defenses have to respect. The math is simple. Better spacing equals better offense equals more wins. The contract situation is another massive advantage of targeting Murphy specifically. He's locked in through 2029 on a deal that's incredibly team-friendly given his production and potential. That kind of cost control is invaluable in today's NBA where the salary cap and luxury tax rules make it increasingly difficult to build and maintain championship rosters. Having Murphy on a reasonable contract gives us the financial flexibility to add pieces around him in Luka, whether through trades, free agency, or using our mid-level exception on quality role players. Lakers Nation. We're at a crossroads moment in this franchise's championship pursuit. The February 5th trade deadline is rapidly approaching, and the decisions Rob Pelinka makes in the next few weeks will determine whether we're genuine title contenders or just another good team that falls short. Trading Rui Hachimura for Trey Murphy III represents the kind of bold, calculated move that championship organizations make when they identify a clear upgrade at a position of need. This isn't about disrespecting what Rui has contributed to this team. He's been a professional. He's had some good moments in a Lakers uniform, and he's a quality NBA player. But when you're trying to win championships, you have to be willing to make the tough decisions that improve your roster, even if it means parting with players you like. Murphy is simply a better fit for what we need right now, a better complement to Luka's skill set, and a better long-term piece given his age and contract situation. I want to hear from you, Lakers. Do you think trading Hachimura for Murphy is the right move? Does this three-team scenario make sense to you? What concerns do you have about parting with our remaining draft capital? How excited are you about the potential of a Luka and Murphy pairing? Drop your comments below because I genuinely value your perspectives and love having these discussions with the most passionate fan base in basketball. And if you haven't already subscribed to Lakers News Fan Report, now is the absolute perfect time to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The trade deadline is coming fast, and when Rob Pelinka makes his move, you want to be the first to know. I'll be here breaking down every development, analyzing every angle, and giving you the insider information you need to stay connected to your Los Angeles Lakers. This is championship or bust time, and we're going to experience every moment of it together. Let's go. Lakers!